Another wild day for Tesla. The stock down more than 4% at the lows of the session, but ending the day just slightly negative after a slew of bearish calls. Our Phil LeBeau is in Chicago with more. Phil.
And Melissa, there are really three things that if you look at what's happened with Tesla over the last couple of weeks, all of these are kind of mixed together to weigh on Tesla shares. Let's start first off with analysts raising doubts. And Adam Jonas from Morgan Stanley, I know the $10 worst case scenario got a lot of attention, but he also brought up a number of concerns, especially with regard to sales possibilities or lack of possibilities in China. And that also plays into the second issue here, which is that there are people questioning the sales momentum, especially for the Model 3. And finally, have you noticed that Elon Musk has been silent? Yeah, he's still on Twitter, and sure, you can still hear from him occasionally, but certainly not like we did before the SEC settlement. And that's why when you take a look at shares of Tesla, in particular, over the last month, it's down 25%. And all of this factors into a time when people are increasingly saying, what's going on with Tesla, and why is this stock under pressure? And by the way, speaking of Elon Musk and the stock being under pressure, remember that he has a number of loans, 3 of them, that are backed with his Tesla shares as collateral. We're talking about 213 to Goldman Sachs, 209 to Morgan Stanley, and 85 million, a total of almost $507 million in personal loans that are collateralized with his Tesla shares. Guys, we don't know if or when there is a margin call on those loans, but if this stock goes lower and there is a margin call, that puts even more pressure on the stock.
And the next potential catalyst for this stock, Phil, isn't until delivery numbers?
Maybe. And that's 5 weeks away, Melissa.
Yeah.
5 weeks. And that means a lot of people are going to put stuff out on social media. And in the past, we'd hear from Elon Musk.
Sure.
We're not going to hear from him the way we used to.
Right. Phil, thank you. Phil LeBeau in Chicago. Even when we hear from Elon Musk, it doesn't do too much to the stock anymore. He could tweet all about autonomous taxis, et cetera, and it doesn't do much for the stock. Here we are. We're in a situation, though, where it seems like we did a segment last week on Tesla, and we said in the past month alone, there have been 12 price target cuts on Wall Street. This week, there are 2 bullish analysts laying out some very bearish scenarios for the stock. The stock today finished flat. Is there something to be read into that, or is this just an up day, relatively up day?
Just maybe from
Tesla?
The pounding that it's already taken. I mean, we've watched Danny Ives finally throw in the towel. We've watched one right after the other. The only criticism I'd have of Adam Jonas, other than saying $10 instead of some other number, I mean, that was a number to get yourself in front of everybody. But so that's OK. I mean, we all kind of realize what happened here when you put down that kind of a bear scenario. But his base case, if things are as bad as they are, and it seems to be that he's leaning on that direction, why is his price target still 230? That he didn't touch. So that part's a little bit concerning to me. I don't understand why I wouldn't cut that down to maybe 200, something more closer to where it is, Tim, right now. Why would you leave that at 230 if all of these other metrics you don't like, you seem to be turning more and more bearish? Why wouldn't that price target come down further?
I think that's an interesting point, because if you want to try and do a risk reward, he's saying base case is 230, bull case is 391, and then bear case is $10. I mean,
got all the bases covered.
It's a wild ride here that you're in for. If you believe this.
Isn't he right to give scenario analysis for a company that is all over the map? And certainly the bulls are out there saying this basis, this makes a lot of sense, and bears are saying otherwise. By the way, you know, at a $10 price, you've got a 15 billion EV with a company that doesn't make it through it, because obviously there's a lot of off-balance sheet liabilities. So I just think that it's interesting that the street, everybody, I would say the investment community is more bearish than ever on Tesla now that it's down $180 in 6 months.
Yeah.
How is that? Yeah. Now, I realize that there's been a cascade of bad news. And the irony here is that the company has raised $2.7 billion and gives them a few months to fight, frankly, especially as we heard the numbers. Based upon the first quarter's cash burn rate, they can go another 10 months. And I actually think that they will go longer down the road. But I just think if you're a shareholder of Tesla right now, you would want this company to restructure thoughtfully rather than all the convoluted ways I think are happening right now anyway, because there's a ton of value. There's a ton of intrinsic value. There's a ton of things there. But I think the longer we play this game, the more I think you're basically winding value out of the company.
I think the narrative here has changed, right? So when this thing was running up to 370 plus a share, the narrative was innovation. They were winning through innovation. Right now, the narrative is survival. And I don't know what the next positive catalyst is. It's not going to be deliveries. I mean, that guidance is so out of line. There's no way they're going to hit their numbers. And quite frankly, they really don't deserve that ludicrous mode valuation that they're trading at still as of today.
And what do the bonds tell us? The 2025 bonds hit a new low after the
yielding 9% today.
Capital raise.
Yeah. Exactly. So this entire valuation, and Tim has nailed this thing, that it's a faith-based valuation. As long as you believe that Elon Musk was going to be able to pull a rabbit out of his hat, then everything worked and everything was fine. But now all of a sudden he stumbles a bit. He can't speak. The execution maybe stumbles a bit. Then you actually have to look at reality of this company. And I think that's what Adam Jonas was getting at with his $10 price target. That let's look at the reality is everything goes wrong. That's probably the level. For me, I like to see people starting getting bearish. To me, that's a sign that there's some capitulation. So somewhere around here, maybe even as low as 150, I'd think about picking some up.
Wow, 150.